Hey guys, it's Ashley and I am back with another video. I realized I haven't talked about any of the books I've read in the past 2 months, and I completely did not cover my wrap up for Pride Month, so I wanted to just make a long video talking about all the books that I read in June and all the books that I read in July. I might be putting this into 2 parts, so depending on how long this video actually turns out. But these are all of the books that I read in the last 2 months. And it was quite a few. I'm actually really pleased with the amount of books that I read and pleased with how much I enjoyed a lot of these books. So I think there are 11 books total. So it's going to be a long video, so let's just get into it. So as you guys are all aware, June was Pride Month, and I had a set of books that I really wanted to get to in order to kind of read more diversely for Pride Month and cover more of the LGBTQ plus community. So I will put that TBR up in the card in the description down below, but I got through quite a few of the books on my TBR, so I was really excited about that. So the first book that I picked up was Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn, and I wanted to pick up this book because there's so much positivity in this book that I thought it would be the perfect book to pick up for Pride Month. And essentially, we follow our main character, Alice, who is a bi-ace black female, and she is just finished her first year of college, and now she's going into the summer and kind of struggling with what she wants to do and pursue as her college degree, and also trying to just enjoy her summer in a very chill way. But at the beginning of this book, she breaks up with her girlfriend because her girlfriend isn't comfortable with the fact that Alice is ace. Our main character, Alice, gets a crush on a guy named Takumi, and it follows their friendship and budding relationship. I really adored this book. I think if you're looking for a book that follows an ace character in a way where you can understand that person and that it's much more significant to the story and the character is outwardly described as being an ace character, this is the book for you. It was absolutely amazing, and personally, I could relate to Alice's character in so many ways. She's struggling with her pressure from her parents to become a lawyer, but that's not really what she wants to do, and she's kind of torn between what her parents want her to do and more of her interests and passions. And I could totally relate to that. I could totally relate to her sexual orientation, and I absolutely love this story. I think it's probably one of my favorite stories of this year, and I pretty much have been recommending it to everyone because it is so inspiring. I love that we see a black character, and also the love interest Takumi is an Japanese American character, so we get to see their struggles with their race and identity, but not in a way that overtakes the main story. It's definitely a story about Alice coming to terms with her sexuality and determining what that means for the type of relationship that she wants to pursue. And I do also think that therapy and all of that is also tackled in this in a way that is believable and definitely positive. So I could rave about this book forever. It is so amazing, and it's so good to be able to see a black bi character who's also ace in a way that is portrayed so well and so believably. So I could say so much about this book, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I love it more than anything I've read in a long time. Secondly, I picked up another ace book that has a lot of LGBTQ plus representation in it, and that is City of Strife by Claudie Arsenault. Claudie Arsenault is an author that strives to make sure that she makes it a point that all of her characters are somewhere in the LGBTQ plus spectrum. It's really hard to describe what City of Strife is and what the plot is because there's a ton going on. I think in the book we follow almost 20 characters. It's a lot of characters, but not in a way that's you find that you're like trying to skip through some characters' point of views and that thing. I think it was done very well, and I liked all of the characters' perspectives that we followed. This is a medieval like fantasy type of story. There's a lot of really interesting characters and a lot of ace characters. That is specifically why I wanted to check this book out, because of the ace representation. Well, I think that Claudia Arsenal does a really good job of adding diverse characters into her story. I do think that sometimes the sexuality of a character is kind of forced into the story to make it like on page when it's not necessarily needed. Like a lot of the times the characters were described as being asexual without using the term asexual, and I'm fine with that, but I feel like in a way it almost came as like unexpected. Like we go from one topic to talking about their sexuality, and it just felt a little jolted at some points. But I think overall the story is done really well, and the added part that like all the characters fall into the LGBTQ plus community was very interesting, and I think it adds another layer to the story that was very cool. So this is a duology, so there is another book in the series which I'll be picking up very soon. I highly recommend the first book if you're into like fantasy worlds that have a lot of point of views, because like I said, you follow a large amount of characters, but they're all very interesting and well-developed characters. We have a lot of like strong female characters and also like older characters, which I think was really interesting. Highly recommend this book, and I can't wait to read the second one to see the conclusion of the story, because it ends on a pretty epic cliffhanger. After The City of Strife, I picked up I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. I think this was the one book that may have not been on my original TBR. I'm not sure, but I really wanted to pick this one up because it follows a non-binary character named Ben, and they have been kicked out of their house by their parents and are now living with their sister and kind of navigating coming out as non-binary and what that means for their life, and their relationships. So I thought this was a very important read because I also don't see a ton of stories about non-binary characters, so I wanted to make sure that I picked something up that talked about this. This is also a male-male romance in the story, so it kind of combined the gay and non-binary aspects of the LGBT community. I have some concerns about this book, but I did really enjoy it. I think that it definitely takes a very dark topic, especially a topic that is very prevalent in the LGBTQ community. Being kicked out of your parents' house or being like denied by your parents is definitely something that does occur, and it's a very sad and traumatic thing that happens, and I think that was portrayed very well in this book. I think that Ben's character, they go through a lot of depression and panic attacks, and that's very evident because of the way they were treated by their parents. I think my biggest issue is that I feel like this book could have started like 20 pages after the actual start of the book, but otherwise I thought the story was done really well. I liked Nathan's character, who is the love interest in the story, and also just a very good friend to Ben throughout the course of the story. I think that he's a very good character because he is very complex in ways, but also just something different than that we don't normally see portrayed in an African-American male. Not only is Nathan bi in this story, but he's also like very friendly and very open about his emotions and that sort of thing, which was just like very refreshing to see. I also thought that the relationship between Ben and their sister was portrayed really well. Again, this is another book that portrays therapy in a very positive way and talks a lot about counseling and also about medication and that sort of thing as well. So I think ultimately, I would recommend this book to anybody. It's a really good and important read. And the last book that I read for Pride Month was The Phoenix Empress by Kate Arsenal Rivera. This is the second book in the series. I'm not sure what the series is called, but the first book was The Tiger's Daughter. I did a full review on the first book on my channel, so I'll put a link to that in the description as well. I can't really say too much about what this book follows, but it follows right after the second book ends, and it kind of follows the same like formatting as the first book. The formatting of the first book is essentially we're reading a letter that one of the characters is writing to one of the other characters, and we're being told a story within a story in this one as well. This is also a female-female romance, so that is kind of why I wanted to pick it up. And it has East Asian inspired characters and worlds. I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of criticisms about this book, but ultimately I really enjoyed this book, and I think, so I'm gonna start off with the books that I read for Pride Month because I got through a lot of the books on my original TBR, which I will put up above. Essentially, I wanted to cover a wide spectrum of LGBTQ plus books. I really like the series as a whole, even though I had criticisms about the first book as well. I really like the two main characters, Shefali and Suzuka. I think their romance is very cute, and I am here for it. I absolutely love it. I do think that there are some issues with the East Asian representation in this book, and with the formatting. There's not a ton that gets revealed. I feel like throughout the first book and for most of the second book, you're kind of going into this world really not sure what's happening. You still really don't understand like the magic system, or if there is a magic system, or what these like creatures are. There's like these demons and other things that are happening that are kind of like zombies. But none of that is really explained, so you're kind of just going into this and just diving into it, and I think I actually enjoyed that. I don't know why, but I liked kind of going into it and not really understanding the world, but because mainly follow Shefali in this, I really enjoy her character, and I think she is just a unique person, and like her unique situation is so interesting that I just really enjoyed it. So I don't know if I would technically recommend this series to other people, just because I am aware that it could be potentially problematic, and there are just a lot of things in this book that I wouldn't normally enjoy, but the fact that it's this book, I really did like it. I mean, it took me a long time to get through, and this is a pretty thick book, but I'm definitely going to be continuing on with the series. We do get a little glimpse of like what's going on in the last, I would say, like 50 pages of the book, and that has got me interested in knowing even more. So yeah, I don't want to talk about this one too much, but if you're interested in like a female-female romance, maybe check it out. Okay, so I am definitely going to be making this into 2 parts. So this is the first part of my June and July wrap up, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you picked up any of these books. Also, I'm really trying to read more LGBTQ plus books, so if you have any suggestions or recommendations, please let me know in the comments below. I'm really looking for some books that cover transgender characters, as well as some books that cover non-binary characters, so if you have any that you know that are really good or that you would recommend, please let me know in the comments. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!